What's up, Taiwan? I'm Erika Liu with 10 minutes of news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Protests have flared in China as crowds come out on the streets to oppose ongoing pandemic restrictions. China has a zero-COVID approach to the virus. Its case numbers are low compared to many other countries, but they have hit record highs in recent days, with around 40,000 new infections reported on Monday. Louise Watt reports.
Mounting anger in China against strict COVID measures is morphing into a wave of opposition that the ruling Communist Party hasn't seen in decades. These protesters in Shanghai on Sunday calling for no more lockdowns. The demonstrations against China's unwavering zero-COVID approach began on Friday and have spread to other cities, including the capital Beijing, where demonstrators held up blank pieces of paper, a protest symbol against censorship.
上海已经有很多人被抓进去了，不只是昨天晚上，他们是为了大家，是为了所有人，是为了每一个骑手不被封在家里，为了大家能够吃上药，能够吃上饭。我们应该声援这些更勇敢的人。上海放人！上海放人！
Protests have also spread to dozens of universities. In Beijing, these students called for democracy and the rule of law and freedom of speech. Public anger has grown as 3 years into the COVID-19 pandemic, China continues its policy of trying to stamp out all trace of the virus. And that has meant mass lockdowns and daily testing of millions of people. One trigger was a fire last week that killed 10 people in an apartment building in Urumqi in the Xinjiang region, where some had been locked in their homes for 4 months. Online, questions were raised whether these restrictions had stopped people escaping. China's economy has also been suffering, a point made by protesters confronting police. Throughout the pandemic, the Chinese government has told its people strict restrictions are necessary to keep them safe. But as they watch the World Cup and see spectators packed together, not wearing masks, they have increasingly questioned what the government has been telling them. Police have been detaining people, but authorities are struggling to put down these protests. This is a very different China than that portrayed at the Communist Party conference last month, when President Xi Jinping was anointed for an unprecedented third term, seemingly making him the most powerful Chinese leader in decades. Now, discontent over his strict COVID policies is leading to demonstrations of anger, unfamiliar manifestations openly challenging his rule. Patrick Chen and Louise Watt for TaiwanPlus.
The anti-lockdown protests in China have now morphed into demands for sweeping political reforms. Meanwhile, in Taipei, people gathered on Sunday for a vigil to show solidarity from across the Taiwan Strait. Ryan Hill-Kilpatrick was there.
The words of a lone Beijing protester who dared to defy Chinese leader Xi Jinping's consolidation of power last month. Now, those sentiments ring across Liberty Square in Taiwan's capital. This vigil was organized to mourn the loss of life in the Chinese city of Urumqi, where fire is believed to have killed 10 people confined to their homes amid a COVID-19 lockdown. It's also a show of solidarity for the anti-lockdown protesters that have taken to the streets across China. Survivors of the Tiananmen Square crackdown in 1989 were among the attendees of Sunday's vigil.
33年来，我们89一代第一次看到中国民主自由的火焰，通过一个一个行动起来的年轻人，在全世界燃烧。
Hong Kong exiles and students from across the strait also gathered around the candlelight. Though she was willing to be interviewed, this student from northern China asked not to be identified, out of fear of repercussions for herself and her family.
自从一阵子之前，中国防疫政策加剧之后，很多人在风控之中上升，国内也会有很多反对的声音。之后，我就一直算是还蛮关注这件事情的。
In spite of her concern for what might happen to the movement and its supporters, she says she continues to hold onto a sense of hope.
我当然首先是很敬佩他们的行动，因为我知道在国内抗疫的后果有多么的大，这样子。我不知道未来会发生什么，但我希望他们一切都好。
As protests in China grow, they're sparking new hope for change, not only throughout China, but also across the sea. Ryan Hill-Kilpatrick for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's ruling party, the DPP, had a difficult election night on Saturday, losing control of 3 northern cities and failing to win Taipei. But the results were even worse for some of the country's smallest parties, with only a handful of winners among dozens of losses. Now, as Stash Butler reports, these parties are trying to figure out why they failed to connect with the public.
It was a lonely victory lap for Zhang Guoyang on Sunday. He and one other Taiwan state-building party candidate won their local elections the day before, gaining their party its first ever seats. But they were the exceptions. Every one of the other 22 TSP candidates lost in their respective races. Many other smaller parties were similarly met with disappointment after Saturday's local elections. In 2018, Taiwan's New Power Party won 16 councillor seats. This year, that number dropped to just 6. Lin Yukai was one of the several NPP councillors who lost their jobs.
有位置的时候，我们当然在体制内进行监督。现在没有位置了，我在体制外面还是可以跟透过社会力量的结合去行使监督的权利。
Taiwan's political landscape is dominated by the ruling Democratic Progressive Party and the main opposition, the Kuomintang. Smaller parties had hoped the recent elections would allow them to make a dent in this duopoly, but ultimately it failed to materialize. Now polling is over, smaller party candidates are trying to figure out why they failed to find their niche with voters. Claire Wang, one of the NPP's 3 national lawmakers, blamed a paralysis of decision-making at the top level of her party.
在决策委员会的这段时间，不论是对于时事的争辩，又或者是对于重大议题的回应，我们往往选择一个低调回应，甚至是不回应的态度。这无疑是让我们自己把时代力量推向了边缘。
But where some failed, others succeeded. Taiwan People's Party candidate Gao Hong'an won a historic victory to become mayor of Hsinchu City. As the dust settles from Saturday's vote, Taiwan's small parties are looking back to see what went right for Gao and other successful candidates and what went wrong elsewhere. Ricky and Stash Butler for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's main international airport in Taoyuan is actively recruiting staff to accommodate a recent surge in travelers. This increase follows Taiwan's relaxation of COVID-19 border restrictions. The country's transportation ministry says over 90,000 people visited Taiwan in October after the limit on arrivals was lifted. That's a 560% jump from the same month in 2021. However, the tourist wave could overwhelm airport staff, whose numbers fell sharply during the pandemic. The airport has opened a recruitment portal on its website. Job openings include everything from check-in staff to food service workers to aircraft maintenance technicians. But filling some of those positions may be more difficult than others.
维修人员那是比较专业性的啦，在其他职缺可能也许不是那么替代性那么普遍，那销售人员他其实是不一样的选择其实很多。
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Remember to download the TaiwanPlus app for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally today, we leave you with images of the Pride Parade in Rio de Janeiro with a giant rainbow flag at Copacabana Beach. I'm Erika Liu. Take care and see you next time.